Hey everyone, it's Heckman. We're back with another DraftKings MMA prediction strategy show. This time we're looking at UFC 236 in Atlanta. Looks like it's going to be a great card. Really excited for the co-main event and the main event. And we have 11 other really great fights on the card as well. So let's get to it. I'm going to try to keep these videos between 20, 23, 24 minutes long. Um, as a reminder, we want to select all six fights correctly. We want to get as many points as possible. Ideally, we'd like to get about 100 points per selection. For about 600 points, that'll hopefully put you in the running for some decent money. I'm going to be focusing on GPPs. Those are the guaranteed prize pools. Those are the ones with the bigger prizes, like the one that you're looking at on your screen for 30,000 to first place on this particular entry. It's a $15 entry. The other types of games that you can play are the cash games, where you're looking to basically double up your money. $5 to win $5, 10 to win 10, etc. With those games, you just need to finish in the top 50% of the field. So generally speaking, you want to play a little bit more conservatively, even if you think the guy's not going to knock out his opponent. If you think he's going to win, and he's a good solid bet to win, you can play those cash games. But in the GPPs, you're going to want to take some chances and play some underdogs and hope that those lesser owned underdogs hit a home run with a knockout, maybe get those 100 points, which will get you up over make the difference for you in the GPP tournaments. So let's get to it. Let's take a look at the first fight of the night. First fight of the night is going to be Brandon Davis against Randy Costa. Brandon Davis is a UFC veteran. He is at $8,700. He's had some tough luck. He's 1-3 in his last 4. He has beaten Peterson, who's a real tough cookie. Scored 90 points on that one. Through 114 significant strikes through 3 rounds. He fought a guy like Barzola, who's just really a wrestling beast. Probably got taken down a lot in that fight. I was only able to land 29 significant strikes through 3 rounds, but I think that was really a stylistic matchup problem for him, where he couldn't get his hands to throw, so he was just on the ground probably all night. He's going to be fighting Randy Costa, who's making his UFC debut. He's at $7,500. My research on him showing that he's really fought a bunch of cans so far, and guys like with really poor records. So he hasn't proven himself. My prediction on this fight is that Brandon Davis is going to use his experience, and he will grind out a decision win here. If you're going to play either of these guys, I guess it would be Brandon Davis. For DraftKings purposes, I'm not really too keen on this fight altogether, either one of these guys. So I'll probably be fading this fight for the most part, because I just don't really have any confidence that either one is going to score 100 points. So, prediction, Brandon Davis by decision. Next fight is a female fight, Poliana Botelho against Lauren Mueller. Botelho is a favorite here at $8,900. I saw the weigh-ins today. She's bigger than Mueller. She looks fit. She looks ready to go. Mueller, on the other hand, she looks pretty fit today as well. The problem for Mueller is that she really is a lower level fighter in the UFC, and she hasn't really proven herself. So I'm not really confident in Mueller to win this fight. I think Botelho probably will win this fight by decision. But I'm not going to rule out Mueller as a possible punt on one or two cards if you're playing multiple cards. She's going to be low owned. And I don't think there's any harm in throwing her on a card or two in the event that she does upset Botelho, and taking into consideration her low ownership. Other dogs like Poirier and Gastelum, they're going to be real chalky. But on the other hand, someone like Mueller won't be. So I wouldn't hesitate to throw on a card or two as a punt. Next fight on the DraftKings card here, it's not in order of the real fight card, but it's here, so we'll go to it. It's Belal Muhammad against Curtis Millender. Belal Muhammad, all my research is showing that he really just needs to take down Millender to win this fight. And the main reason why is because Millender is horrible with his takedown defense. He's been taken down in almost every single fight, if not every single fight that he's participated in lately. And Belal Muhammad is a very good grappler. The problem with this fight for DraftKings is that I don't see Belal Muhammad winning by a TKO. I see him winning by a decision. And if he does win by a decision, you're not looking at really big points. The most points he's had in any of his wins are 83, 82, 81, 81. Certainly respectable. And I think really a nice play for cash games. I'm not really sure how I feel about playing him in GPPs, because you really ideally want to look for somebody who has a chance to get a finish. And I'm not so confident that Belal Muhammad, even though I'm confident he can win the fight by decision, I'm not so confident that he's going to win by a finish and get those 100 points that we're really looking for. So my prediction for this fight is that Belal Muhammad will win by decision, and for DraftKings purposes, he's a better cash game play. On the other hand, with Curtis Millender, even if he wins, there's no guarantee that he's going to win by KO either. He needs to keep it on the feet, which I'm not really confident he can do. And even if he keeps it on the feet, his significant striking is not so voluminous. Look at that fight against Griffin. 54 DraftKings points, 3 rounds, only 38 significant strikes, 1 takedown. I mean, that's as low volume as you can get. So for DraftKings purposes, I'm not too confident in Millender even as a punt. I think that there's probably other punts out there that are better. So I think for me, Belal Muhammad in cash games, if you're playing multiple GPPs, you want to throw them in there just to mix it up and get a win. Even though you're not necessarily going to get 100 points, but you want those points to start adding up. You can play Muhammad in GPPs as well. Millender, I just don't think he can win by KO. I think Muhammad is a little bit too tough for him. So I'm probably going to fade Millender altogether for DraftKings purposes. Next fight on the DraftKings card here, even though again I don't think this is in order, is a really interesting fight. Alan Jouban against Dwight Grant. Alan Jouban is at 8,300. He hasn't fought in over a year. I think he hurt his neck or something like that. I'm not really sure what part of his body was injured, but he needed to rehab. He's 37 years old now, hasn't fought in over a year, and he's fighting a pretty hard-hitting guy in Dwight Grant. And that's significant because Jouban's chin is really suspect. He has been knocked out, he's been rocked, and for DraftKings purposes, although Alan Jouban is probably a better all-around fighter, Dwight Grant is my preferred play here, because I think that Dwight Grant, if he can connect with Jouban, he can hurt him and he can possibly finish him. and get those points that we're really looking for. I think his upside is greater here for DraftKings purposes, and he's cheaper. So my preferred play here is Dwight Grant. My prediction for the fight is that Dwight Grant, even if he's losing the fight, he can always win by a flash knockout. And I think that could happen here. So my prediction is Dwight Grant by knockout or TKO in the second or third round. Next fight, Jalen Turner against Matt Favola. Jalen Turner is the favorite here. He's at $8,400. He last fought, I think he fought in Australia on that Australian card with the Gastelum Whitaker cancellation, and he beat a local fighter there by finish. Scored 107 points. A lot of people are high on Turner per my research this week. He's very athletic. He's taller than Favola. I watched the weigh-ins tonight. Favola is a hard hitter, and he does have a path to victory because Turner's chin, kind of like Joban, is suspect, and if Favola can score a flash knockout, it wouldn't shock me just based on Turner's history of being knocked out. The last 3 years he's been knocked out at least once per year, 2016, 17, and 18. So Turner's chin is suspect. This is a fight that I'm probably gonna have both pieces of. I like Turner to win the fight. I think he can win the fight by decision, but I am gonna be playing Favola on a couple of cards. I do think he's a live dog, and he's also the type of fighter who, if even he's not going to win by decision, he will win by a finish, which means nice DK points if he does come through. So I'm going to have both pieces on this fight, Favola on 1 or 2 cards, and Turner I'll probably have on multiple cards as well, more than 2. Next fight, interesting fight, Selim Amadeov against Max Griffin. This is Amadeov's UFC debut. Russian fighter, fought locally there. I think he's 8-0. Let me double check that. Yeah, I think my recollection is that he's 8-0. He's fighting Max Griffin, who's 14-6. My prediction for this fight is going to be Amadeov by decision. Max Griffin, I think, does have the experience in the UFC. He's fought tough guys, and he's definitely somebody I'm going to throw on a card or two as well, because this fight is really a toss-up in that Amadeov is unproven, and he's never really fought anybody the caliber that Max Griffin has. So again, with these DraftKings cards, these teams that you're going to put together, it's really just about finding the right combination of 6 fighters that are going to win. So if you like 3 or 4 fights that you're really confident in, and you're not sure about Amadeov and Griffin, and you're playing multiple cards, slip one of them in one fight on one card with the same 3 or 4 fighters, and slip the other one in as well, so you're covered. You're going to be sacrificing one, but you really just need to hit on one card to win some decent money. You're not really going to expect to win 4 or 5 cards, big money. You want to win one with big money, and that's really about finding the right combination. So that's why you might want to play Griffin and Amadeov and have both sides of that. Next fight. This is going to be an interesting fight. Boston Salmon is making his UFC debut. My research on him is that he's a fantastic boxer. He's the favorite here at 8,600. Khalid Taha is at 7,600. This is a fight I'm gonna have a lot of Boston Salmon in. This is one of my preferred fights to have on most of my cards. I think he's one of my more confident picks. I'm not sure if he's gonna win by a finish or not, but he is a striker, and if he can get in lots of volume, he can get close to 100 points even with the decision. I'm probably not gonna have Taha anywhere. I'm probably just gonna stick with Salmon on this fight for DraftKings purposes. So my prediction is Boston Salmon, maybe by a third round finish, TKO. Next fight is a rematch. Ovin St. Preux against Nikita Krylov. I think these guys fought back in 2014, so you almost have to throw it out. Since then, Krylov left the UFC, and then he's come back. He's 7-2 in his last 9 since losing to St. Preux by submission. And Ovin St. Preux, on the other hand, has been alternating wins and losses. We've all seen him fight over the last few years in the UFC. He's fought some really tough guys. I'm just not so high on St. Preux. It's just a personal thing. I'm not really sure why, but he doesn't really excite me. I'm not really sure. I can't really explain why. I mean, he's fought some tough guys, but I'm leaning toward Krylov this fight. I think he can win a decision. Actually, take that back, not a decision. And the reason why I say that, and this is a really interesting statistic with this guy, Krylov, is that he has 31 professional fights, and all 31 of these fights have never gone to a decision. So, you're gonna probably put money on this fight not going to a decision. It's kill or be killed with this guy. So, what I think I'm going to probably do with this fight is something similar that I'm going to do with the Imadaev and Griffin fight, which is with the combinations that you're looking for to try to hit on. I'm going to be playing both of these guys because it is really such an evenly contested fight, and nobody really knows who's going to exactly win. A lot of guys are predicting Krylov, a lot of guys are predicting St. Preux. So it's really almost impossible to predict who's going to win. So you might want to, unless you're really confident for one reason or another on one particular fighter, if you're going to play this fight, you're going to probably want to play both fighters and plug them in with 3 or 4 fighters that you're feeling confident in, and hope that you hit on the right combination. But my prediction officially will be Krylov by a knockout in the 3rd round. Next fight, Montel Jackson, the most expensive fighter on the card, against Andrei Sukhamtath. I'm not going to be playing Sukhamtath anywhere. Montel Jackson, again, he's really expensive. I think he is going to win the fight. I watched the weigh-ins. He's bigger than Sukhamtath, and looks to be more athletic as well. He's really up and coming. His future seems bright. Yeah, I mean, this is a confident pick for me, but again, it's that price. So if you can fit him in, if you like some dogs, I wouldn't hesitate to throw Jackson in there. Prediction, Montel Jackson by 3rd round finish. Next fight, 2 Brazilians, Alexandre Pantoja against Wilson Reis. Pantoja is a pretty large favorite here at 8,800. He's a much better fighter on the feet than Reis is. Reis is more of a grappler. He's going to look to get it to the ground, and that's his path to victory. Pantoja, on the other hand, um, is also a pretty good grappler in his own right, and he's been training at ATT, I think, for the last year or so. And I wouldn't be surprised if his ground game is also really improved, to the point where he might be able to compete with Hayes. This is a toss-up for me if it goes to the ground. I watched the weigh-in today. Hayes, looks pretty solid, looks pretty good. Pantoja's taller and thinner. It's a fight that you really need to have Hayes, I think, in as a punt on a couple of your cards, because he can certainly win this with his path to victory of just grinding it out on the ground. If you look at his last fight, it was a victory. He only threw 32 significant strikes in 3 rounds, but he had 7 takedowns. And that's what he's going to look to do here with Pantoja. He's fought the best of the best. He's fought Cejudo. He got KO'd. He got subbed by DJ. So he's been in there with the best of the best. He fought Moraga, in which he went 3 rounds, only had 12 significant strikes, but he had 8 takedowns and 8 advances, and he was able to score 70 points even in a loss. So I think that you need to have Hayes in a couple of your cards as a punt. Pantoja, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if he's going to be able to finish Hayes on the feet. I really have my doubts. So for me, Pantoja is probably more of a cash game, because this is probably going to go to a decision, and he might score in the 70 to 85 range, which is good, but for DraftKings purposes at $8,800, he's not going to give you the return that you're really looking for. So it's really even hard to make a prediction on this fight. But I'll say Pantoja by decision if he can keep Hayes off him. Next fight, Eric Anders against Khalil Roundtree. Eric Anders is, he's a really athletic guy. He's just really expensive at $9,000. But they've thrown him into the deep end. He's fighting all real top guys. Teodoro, Santos, Machida. I mean, these guys are the top guys. Not necessarily Teodoro, but he's a very good UFC fighter as well. Khalil Roundtree has a path to victory by right hand, big right hand. I'm just not convinced he can get it done, and I'm not really confident in Khalil Roundtree's cardio as well. My prediction for this fight is that Eric Anders is going to either win by a finish in the 3rd round, when Roundtree just gets gassed out, or by a decision. So I'm probably going to have Anders in 1 or 2 cards, just to change it up from the Max and Israel picks. And I probably won't have Roundtree in anything more than 1 card, maybe, just in the event that he's able to get a flash knockout. I may not even play him at all. I might fade Roundtree altogether. So my prediction: Eric Anders, 3rd round finish. Next fight, wow, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier. Look at Max Holloway. He's a DraftKings star. He lost to Poirier. We all know that. In addition to Max Holloway throwing so much volume, you have to add in the narrative to this fight, which is a revenge narrative. Max Holloway was subbed when he was 20 years old by Dustin Poirier, and he's really going to want to make up for that loss. Dustin Poirier, $7,100. I mean, you've got to play him. You've got to play him as a punt in some of your cards. I mean, I don't see how you don't. Um, he's a tough guy. He's fought Alvarez, Gaethje, Pettis, um, Miller. Um, Somehow he lost to Michael Johnson. Um, my prediction for this fight is that Max Holloway is going to win this fight. Um, and I think he's going to finish him around the fourth round or the fifth round. I think the odds are right. I just think that Max Holloway, was 20 years old. He's a grown man now. He's filled out. I watched the weigh-ins today. He's actually bigger than Dustin Poirier. Um, it's not to count out Poirier. He's a great fighter. Um, but I'm gonna have Max on a lot of my cards, and I will have Poirier on a couple of cards as well, of course, because you never know. I mean, Poirier is a great fighter as well, and we've seen the last couple of main events with underdogs winning, um, like Masvidal, for example. All right, so Poirier by fourth round finish TKO is my prediction. For cash games, this is a game that a card that you might want to stack. You might want to play both of these guys. Poirier is certainly capable of scoring 70 or more points as well in a 5-round fight, even if he loses. And that's going to be more than a lot of other guys. And at $7,100, I mean, you can't really beat that. So cash game, you can stack it. GPPs, you want to play both sides of this. Next fight, and last fight, Kelvin Gastelum against Israel Adesanya. 9,200 versus 7,000. Same theory here with wanting to play both sides of this. Gastelum is going to be pretty chalky, we know that. Israel is going to be chalky as well. Who's going to win the fight? Great question. It's going to be a question of who imposes their style, right? Who imposes their will? Can Kelvin Gastelum get inside? Can he pressure Israel? Can he get close to him to land that big left? Or is Israel going to use his athleticism, his range, and keep Kelvin Gastelum away from him? The thing about Kelvin Gastelum is, even though he's a better wrestler, I haven't seen him wrestle. He doesn't wrestle. He's fallen in love with his stand-up game. And that could actually be his demise here. I do think that he's going to have to use his wrestling here throughout 5 rounds to win this fight. So it's just going to be one of those fights where you're really not going to get an idea of who's going to have impose their will stylistically until you actually watch this fight. The first round is going to say a lot. Can Kelvin get in there? Can Israel keep him at bay? It's such an interesting stylistic matchup because of the height difference and what each really needs to do to win this fight. My prediction is going to be Israel wins by decision. But it would not shock me at all if Kelvin could knock out Israel. And frankly speaking, I think he's got a great chance to do it if he gets inside and lands on Israel, because Israel, he really hasn't fought anybody the caliber of Gastelum at this moment. Yes, he fought Silva, but we all know Silva is like 43, 44 years old. He's at the way on the downside of his career. Brunson fight, actually was at that fight at the Garden in New York City. Israel looked amazing. Could he do it again? Yeah, I guess he could. But I'm not sure. Brad Tavares, I think he was fighting with like a broken foot or something like that. Went all 5 rounds. Scored 95 points. In that particular fight, 119 significant strikes. No takedowns. He's a stand-up fighter. So, he's going to need to keep it on the feet. He's going to need to keep Kelvin off him, and we'll see if he can do it. You guys want both sides of this. Kelvin can score easily 100 points with that knockout. So that's it, guys. I wish you guys best of luck tomorrow night. Let's get it.